Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We've been hearing a lot about allegations. Certainly a trend of allegations in politics is certainly picking up even as we speak. There is an insinuation in the field. There's a certain kind of remark that is made. There is a kind of things are being alluded to and then picked up. There doesn't seem to be any proof. There doesn't seem to be any kind of reality on the ground on which to base those assertions on. But unfortunately, that is what politics is increasingly being built upon as far as politics, the political scenario at this time is concerned. We particularly want to talk about that. We also want to talk about recently in an interview, the opposition party was there was a remark made by an international journalist about how certain deductions quite like Sherlock Holmes were being made, and on which there was no proof, but they were later being built upon. They were later being 2 plus 2 is added and built to 12 and more, and then there is a lot of hyperbole, there is a lot of sensationalism, there is a lot being said on social media. It's being built upon after every share, as it goes along, quite like Chinese whisper, and we want to talk about that kind of trend. We also want to talk about what politics overall should be centered and managed and debated within Parliament, which is the forum for it. But interestingly, that is not where we find politics at all these days. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Fareed Reyes, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Rana Maqbool Ahmed from the PMLN. Thank you for joining us. And Nayab Goharjan from the PPP. Thank you for joining us. Ji, before I go to Rana Sahab and then Nayab, Fareed Sahab, like we were earlier saying, as far as politics at this time is concerned, we don't know what is the truth and what are mere assertions which are based on what is propaganda. Of course, realistically speaking, politics, propaganda may be a part of politics, but politics isn't supposed to be centered on propaganda. Would you agree? And are we really moving towards more and more towards that style of politics now?
MAHRUKH, thank you so much for inviting me in your show. The basic thing which you have asked about, now most probably for the past 3 to 4 years, what we are seeing, what we are here, and what we are the night of a new kind of a politics which we are witnessing over here. If we talk about, I'm not talking about with allegations, accusations, and all those things. It's all about in politics. If you see in the politics in the rights in 75 years of the politics here in Pakistan, all the major political parties which are into the power, which used to be in the opposition, they all used to hurl allegations against each other. But the kind of a politics which we are now witnessing, or what we are seeing over here, it's something very different, and it's something very difficult about now to report on, now to analyze on, and what the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, a party which has introduced a new kind of a politics, a new kind of a propaganda, and what we were talking before the program was being on here, that this is a party which doesn't believe in the parliament. This is a party which doesn't believe in the power of the parliament and in strengthening of the parliament. This is the party, whether in the government, whether in the opposition.
But the root of it is also the fact that when you say, when you say that a particular institution, whether it's the parliament, let me come back to you. I'll go to Rana Sahab. Rana Sahab, can you hear me?
वो जो खेलने को चांद नहीं खेलने को पाकिस्तान में
जी Rana Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. I'm hearing.
Ji, overall, as far as politics, we've been talking about how the political realm of Pakistan at this time seems to have been centered on what is propaganda. There are assertions made which are built upon as we speak. And what Fareed Sahab is saying, he's saying that, the power of the assemblies at this time, whether it's, as far as National Assembly is concerned, whether it's provincial assemblies, overall, that the legislative system at this time and that power has somehow been taken away from that very institution on which democracy should center. Would you agree?
MAHRUKH, Assalamu alaikum, and my salam to both the honorable participants. It's a great privilege and honor to getting across to you. Yes, Fareed is absolutely right. This party and especially their leader has been instrumental in causing and generating massive polarization due to his use of derogatory and provocative expressions, unfortunately, which is unbecoming of a leader. I personally think politics is not propaganda at all. Politics has to be committed to truth and genuine contribution in service of the people. Politics does have its own ethics and morality. It's not a system without morality and without ethics. Unfortunately, now it has become an ambassador of lies and ambassador of falsehood. It is just a pack of fallacies and pack of fallibilities as far as the party we
Professor,
were discussing.
when you talk about when you talk about propaganda, which is when you talk about taking power away from an institution like the assemblies, when you say that it is not, you don't accept the parliament, you don't accept the foundation of the parliament because you don't agree with the makeup of the parliament. So in a sense, then you're disregarding the very institution which is incremental to democracy at this time. And so how can you then say that you are, you want democracy to flourish, you want democracy within a country, you want democracy within a political party, all of those things, by the very nature, the one institution that stands for democracy is the parliament. Let me come back to you.
हमारा
Nayab, do you agree with this? Ji Nayab?
Absolutely, Maruk, I agree with it because, as is mentioned before, Mr. Imran Khan's entire politics and political journey has never been about democracy. In fact, it's been about the opposite. It's been about weakening democracy. It's been about undermining parliament. Several times he has undermined. It's also been about his way or the highway, right? So, as you were talking about allegations earlier, I think it's very important to mention that he has a very dark and problematic history of constantly making baseless allegations against his political opponents and never substantiating it with any evidence. This alone goes to show how he considers himself to be above the law, above institutions, above systems, the same systems that he claims that he seeks to mend and improve. How can we believe that when he himself doesn't believe to be a part of the system but above the system? You saw how he caused international embarrassment to Pakistan in this series of bizarre interviews that he has been giving, where he's behaving like a child who, for the first time, doesn't have a cheat sheet, and is giving a test without a cheat sheet and doesn't have the answers beforehand, because one after the other he failed miserably because he was constantly questioned about giving proof. He failed miserably. He was constantly questioned exactly what you're saying about his belief in systems, institutions, the parliament. He was, in fact, directly compared to other populist leaders who exist today. And he had absolutely no answer. More baseless allegations, more propaganda. So I think we're moving, because of him, we've moved towards this entire climate of suspicion and intrigue and propaganda in politics, which I believe is unprecedented in Pakistan's history. And I think we need to come out of it. All democratic forces need to get together and we need to talk about the supremacy of the parliament. If Imran Khan truly wants to see change in Pakistan, he needs to come back to the parliament. He needs to wait for the constitutional term of this government to be over, and then he needs to go towards elections. And and he needs to stop politicizing certain appointments in the country and making them and making an international spectacle out of them. So I think
Let me come
all of
back to
it
you.
is
Nayab, on that note, Ji
embarrassing.
Fareed Sahab, I think one of the two things that Nayab said, she said that, you make it making an international spectacle. Unfortunately, for a while now, we have made an international spectacle of ourselves, as far as overall our politics are concerned. There's no doubt about that. In terms of casting, doubt on institutions are concerned, of course, one being very much, not only the Assembly, but as far as the Election Commission is concerned, overall institutions have been taken, as everything that comes out, if it's against a certain, the opposition particularly, is taken to be coming from a bad place, doubts are cast, things are said, and that's not new. But overall, as far as direction of politics is concerned, we have to, of course, balance freedom of expression, people coming out and voicing their own commitment to any particular political party, taking whatever political side they want to, and no one's denying that. But to make the political discourse itself so controversial, how does one deal with that? That's my question.
Mahrukh, the basic thing is that the narrative which is being built now, if an institution is not with you, if the institution is not obeying you, if the institution is not doing the things according to you, if the institution is not to your will, it's not going according to your will, then it's very easy to hurl allegations on that institution. Because the institutions, they all belong to Pakistan. And when you talk about the international discourse, when you talk about all these allegations, it is not in the favor of a country. Because if an election commission, if you are hurling allegations against the election commission, it is your institution. If you are hurling allegation against any other institution, it is yours. You have been working with these institutions. You have a very cordial and a very friendly relations with these institutions. But as we all talk about this thing, that the vote of no confidence is according to the law, according to the constitution. Accordingly, it was nothing done unconstitutionally. It was done according to the constitution of the Pakistan. But the basic thing is, this is not the thing in the country, and one need to consider about this thing. If a party, if a person, if an individual, if that party or individual is not in the power, if not in the power corridors, then what does it mean? That the system is responsible for that. You start hurling allegations on those institutions. If the election commission, as you talked about, if a party is winning from some constituencies, from the we have some recent examples over there that a party, we name it Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, in the by-elections they won in majority of the seats. Who conducted the elections? Was it some other institution, or was it the Election Commission of Pakistan?
But where does my point is, where do the conspiracy theories stop, and how do we get to the reality of what's real and what's being given out or doled out as conspiracy, as made up theories, which again, like I'm saying, they're built upon the foundation. There's a little it's spark which is thrown out, and then it's built upon, and a fire is built upon it. And then different kind of things are dragged out. Again, I think Sherlock Holmes analogy wouldn't be wrong here.
I think so. This is the kind of the politics which one is believe and one is dragging into it. I believe this thing that right now, if a party, you have the example in front of it, that nobody is concerned about the parliament, nobody is concerned about the power of the parliament. Everybody is concerned about how to tackle the protest, how to tackle the long marches, how to tackle an individual, because an individual is continuously hurling allegations again and again and dragging all the others, those who wish, or those who want to do something for the country, those who want to do for the betterment of the country, those who want to take the country in the right direction. But now everybody, every individual, all the political parties are being dragged. Okay, if somebody is hurling the allegations, that there need to be the counter allegation.
That's what I'm saying. So much energy. Let me go to Rana Sahab. I'll come back to you. Rana Sahab, so much energy, so much effort has to go into, and I have to say has to, because once these allegations are made, once these assertions are made on a national level, because we saw the earlier on the DGISPR, the DGISI's press conference, the fact that they had to come out and talk about the reality of things as they saw them and as they were. was something that was indicative of how it becomes mandatory to over time, when such allegations are repeatedly spewed out, to defend institutions, to defend individuals, to defend at this time our there doesn't seem to be any sanctity. Where will the buck stop, in your opinion?
Actually, Marak, what I understand, there is some manufacturing fault. And perhaps it will not be very easy for him to reclaim his the genuine personality. Unfortunately, he believes gimmicks, he believes falsehood, he believes unfounded propaganda. He doesn't believe truth, he doesn't propagate truth, he doesn't stand for truth. This is a tragedy with this nation. Though he has attained this temporary popularity, which I think is a bubble, it will settle down, inshallah, in the coming elections. But unfortunately, he is not prepared to repair himself. And rather, he is augmenting his total negative activity with more fallacious propaganda. Like, can you serve the nation by attacking institutions? If you attack the armed forces time and again, without a reason or rhyme, without substantive material or tangible evidence or invincible evidence, where do you going to achieve your purpose? It will backfire, and you will finally tumble out of politics. This is writing on the wall. This
but Rana Sahib, there is a political, there is a national cost to this also, right? Because when we talk about earlier on, we've seen dignitaries all over the world, when visits are scheduled, when you want to move ahead and proceed on issues of economy, you want to proceed ahead on issues of national interest. All of these things, unfortunately, are causing a detriment to building up, moving forward towards developmental goals for the country as a whole, in the national interest.
Maruf, there is a little light at the end of the tunnel this time. In 2014, he did have support. This is no secret from anybody. He did have support, which should have not been there. It is not the institutional responsibility to extend or interfere into politics. That was being done. Now, after the announcement of the Armed Forces Command that they are going for fresh line of action of absolute neutrality and withdrawal from politics. Now, he'll not be getting that support. And I assure you, though, for the time being, he is damaging the country's image and country's economy. And you might have observed, they went to this extent that the Pakistan was standing on the brink of default. And he told his former finance minister to write to the IMF that we will not be cooperating. What does it mean? Yes, yesterday you might have observed, look at the lowly level of politics. Former Inspector General of Police, Punjab, who was selected as advisor to UNO, which is an honor for Pakistani people and Pakistani police. They said, we'll approach the Secretary General and UNO organization not to accept this man. Look at them, what they are doing. They are not even at the embryonic stage of the political learning. They need to know and learn politics, the ethics of politics, the morality of politics. That is it.
I mean, okay, there is a morality of politics, certainly, and that one hopes that there should be, rather. I think that's the right phrase to put forward. But in your opinion, do you think there's a chance now of, again, I have always said this, that, of getting the former Prime Minister, the PTI as a political party, to perhaps come back to the Parliament and, as far as their agitation is concerned, can we have them agitate within the Parliament? When we talk about the style of politics where you have shadow budgets, where you have counter proposals, where you have some legitimacy in terms of, not mere criticism, not mere abuse, not mere coming out and saying that, there is corruption, this is wrong, this is wrong all over, everything is wrong, but there's no counter. We don't see there being proposals coming from, counter proposals or alternatives being given at all.
MAHRUKH, you're absolutely right. There are certain issues which can be considered. But I tell you, this is my personal reading and assessment. I'm sure this venture will peter out. He's not going to succeed. Once he will reach the dead end, he'll come back to the parliament, because he is trying through various ways and endeavoring to get support from them. They are not extending any support. Let's talk frankly. This is a national issue. We must not shy off pondering over the original issues. So they are not extending any support. If he doesn't get any support, and I'm sure he'll not, he'll come to terms and he'll come to the parliament.
Do you think that he's hoping to put, let me come back to you, Rana Sahab, I'll go to Nayab after this. We have to take a short break on whether this is a strategy to try to get different institutions to become defensive. And, we've seen that kind of strategy to work, the opposition work towards that strategy earlier on. I want to come back and talk more about that, but we'll be taking a short break. Right, welcome back. Nayab, can you hear me?
Yeah, MAHRUKH, I can hear you.
Nayab, we've been talking, please turn, as far as the overall narrative is concerned, do you think that the counter narrative to this narrative that's coming from the opposition of whoever is with them is somehow above reproach, is more, is honest, trustworthy, and whoever is not is, doubts are cast all over. the corruption narrative, all of those things, whether corruption charges are proven against anyone remains irrelevant largely. Do you think that the counter narrative in that kind of, in those circumstances is not strong enough? Perhaps that's a problem?
No, Mahrukh, I think there's a couple of things that we need to realize. One is that with populist leaders, their entire political currency is their narrative, because they hardly ever have any performance to back up their claims, or they hardly ever have anything that they can show during their time in government. So what happens is that their entire political currency comes down to these allegations, sloganeering, toying with people's emotions, things like that. So I think you have to understand that narrative matters a lot more to Imran Khan's politics and to save his politics than it does to the other politicians who, even if you see it right now, I think one of the reasons why we don't spend that much energy in constantly engrossing ourselves with Mr. Imran Khan and his gimmicks is because there's actual work to be done. I mean, your country, one third of your country, I'd like to remind you, is still affected by floods. And, we have some key government representatives of ours who were just at COP27, including the foreign minister, the prime minister, the climate change minister, and many others. So there's a lot of work to be done. We cannot be consumed with Mr. Imran Khan's obsession with allegations and his propaganda narrative all the time. So I hear this a lot, that the government is not responding adequately, etc. Well, that's firstly because you cannot compare the propaganda narratives of populists with sort of democratic leaders who have other things to do.
And it's more a question of priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a question of priorities. We have a lot of work to do. And as you saw, you mentioned yourself, political instability and economic and social instability are inextricably linked. So what Mr. Imran Khan is trying to do is try to make the government busy with dealing with him and his marches and his allegations, and to distract them from their work. And I think that we absolutely should not take that bait. We should keep our eyes on the priority, which is to perform for the people of Pakistan, to deal with floods, to deal with the abysmal economy that Mr. Imran Khan has left behind. And I don't think there's any need to busy ourselves with the propaganda that much.
Right, fair enough. Gee, Fareed Sahab, do you agree? You think that there is perhaps, like we were earlier talking about, like Nayab is saying, she's saying there's perhaps little need or priority given to coming out with counter narratives with that kind of speed, because there's more to be done when of course, they're in the government. There are huge obstacles as far as our economy is concerned. There are issues as far as the floods are concerned. All of those are realities at this time that the government is dealing with. Do you think that that is one of the reasons why we have seen, the way that, of course, for the opposition it's easier because they're not managing the problems in the government at this time?
Yes, Nayab is very right about this thing. Government has some many other challenges to do, the economy, the flood hit areas. Still, you don't know about what the people are going through, the pain and the misery in the flooded areas. You have the winters over there, the people are displaced, and still they haven't been able to get their homes back. Still they are unable to get their agriculture, their mode of earning. They are still dependent on what the things, because the rescue had been done, the rehabilitation process will take some time. But I think so the opposition party doesn't realize this kind of a thing. The opposition party, it does only want that the election should be announced, an early election should be announced, because as far as the government, because they claim that that this government is not able to take the country in the right direction. The opposition claims that the economy is going down. As far as you believe this thing, that the past government, the PTI-led government, it was there, and at that time they had some kind of a different narrative.
So
at that time they used to say that you shouldn't block the roads, you shouldn't block the earning of a common man, because all these protests and all these hindrances and hurdles will create a disaster for a common man who earns his livelihood on a daily basis. Now the same political party believes in this thing that a long march or to close the roads or to close the motorways and all those things, they just demand for the early election. I think so. Let the things go in a direction. Let the government do its working. Let the government go and complete its tenure. There is nothing. There is hardly a year left. A political party should wait for their time and wait and see what the current government is
Fareed
going
sir,
on.
do you think there's any hope for early elections for the opposition at this time, or is it just hyperbole now?
No, the basic thing is on what basis? I believe in this thing. If okay, there is no harm in demanding an early election, but was it an harm when the PTI-led government was there, and if somebody claims to go for an early election, then is it okay? If the opposition claims that it's not an unconstitutional demand, okay, they can demand for it.
But the former Prime Minister has said now, on record, that he doesn't believe that there will be early election. So what is this? Is it a way for them to mobilize their voter? Is it now just a strategy to keep things, as far as they're concerned, keep things moving, as far as their support base is concerned?
I believe in this thing that are coming on the streets by protesting, by bringing the long marches and demanding for an early election, and the government to step down and call for an early election will not be a suitable thing to do, because in Pakistan it is not on the power of the street. Because if a political party demands an early election only on the basis of a long march, only on the basis of the protest, then this will be a norm, this will be a practice, this will be done by each and every individual, bringing hundreds and thousands of people on the street and demanding to a government that the government should step down and call for an early election. Pakistan is a democratic country, and I believe in this thing. The democratic norms and procedures must be adopted by all the political parties in the favor of the country, in the favor of the development of the country, and specifically in the favor of the people of Pakistan.
Rana Saab, do you think, what is the goal, in your opinion, now for the former Prime Minister and his political party? Because he said so on, he said on record now that he doesn't expect there to be early elections. Yet he's continuing, yet the narrative is moving forward. There's accumulation of different kinds of theories which are then built upon, like I earlier said, and that is continuing regardless of whether those demands will be met or not. What is behind it? What is the goal, the ultimate goal, in your opinion?
MAHRUKH is implicit and demand so many times he has mentioned as well, because he doesn't have much of control over himself. He believes demagoguery straight away, which is not working at all. The chief of the army staff appointment. This total commotion will set it down by before 29th of this month. Let's not worry about it. So one of his target is not achieved at all. The second target about elections, Mr. Fareed and Nayab, they have absolutely correctly pointed out it's not possible at this stage. Once more than 3 crores of population is in predicament, and they are starving and they are not being properly rehabilitated, the government is endeavoring, but I think it's a Herculean task as far as the rehabilitation of this region is concerned. So this is not a suitable and conducive climate for elections at all. So both his demands are, he is not achieving at all. As I've already pointed out, he has to get back to the parliament before next elections. Now, Nayab has raised very pertinent points about the government's responsibility, and so my friend Fareed, that is there. The government must perform to the hilt to bring relief to the people. Though they are struggling, they are getting aid from outside, they are getting grants from outside. They have got $1.5 billion from Asian Development Bank, $1.5 billion from World Bank, and other friendly countries. They are bustling support. Our finance minister is already there. They have been able to partly manage the spiral of the dollar. That is also a little relief to the people. And the prices of daily use commodities are also coming down a little, though they should have a massive decrease in that. But They are not going up, they are going down. But things are there, and I personally think, and I have the knowledge as well, the government is going to announce a package in which most of us, the middle class and the lower middle class, will be benefiting from that. I need not disclose that because it was discussed and decided at the highest level. I think that will also bring relief to the people. And as far as his next weapon, the other weapon, which is always very sharp, that is disreputing and throwing the volleys of allegations against his opponents. But he has received the response as well. The cases which are there about corruption and about illicit means he has been using, he has been convicted in a few cases, and he is being tried. There is a lot of hue and cry, not only in Pakistan, all over the world, about his piety, so-called piety, and so-called honesty and integrity. So his issues are being addressed at all levels. Therefore, I personally think something better will come up, and we'll be out of this quagmire within 2-3 months, God willing.
Right, Rana Sahab, on that note, we have to take a break. I will come back to you and we'll talk more about what we can expect in the next couple of weeks as far as the opposition is concerned.
Australia are the defending champions. We have to wait to see who wins the 8th edition of World T20 Cup.
Oh, goodbye, good night!
Top teams of the world shall be competing. Fierce, unforgiving, up there to accept the challenge. Speed, the spinning wiles. Orthodox shots interspersed with massive hits. ICC World T20 2022, October 16th until November 13th, 2022. Live on PTV Sports HD.
Right, welcome back. I'm Fareed sir, overall, as far as institutions are concerned, do you think it also, to an extent, puts them, of course, we are not casting doubt on their functionality and their sincerity, but do you think it puts them on the defensive when these baseless allegations are, cast upon them regardless? Because no institution seems to have been exempt. We talk about Election Commission, we talk about judiciary, we talk about, armed forces, all over, the opposition has not spared any one institution. Of course, they don't agree with the parliament at all. They don't want to acknowledge it. So overall, it's on every institution.
I think, Sukhe, it is not a matter of the or working or the functionality of an institution. It's all about what I said earlier about not being into the power.
Okay.
If we're not being into the power, then nobody. I have earlier said to you that the basic thing what the PTI chairman Imran Khan has built a narrative upon, and he has sketched the things all around, that if he is in the power, if he is in
what
the power,
will happen to institutions if, for example, he is in power tomorrow? The Election Commission will, according to him, start acting honorably. The Parliament, of which these members, the members that are there, likely, a lot of them will probably be re-elected again. As far as
yes,
the overall makeup is concerned, because we don't have the PTI members at this time. These other members in the parliament at this time will probably have enjoyed tenures, numerous tenures, have a political base. Unfortunately, that's a reality. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, but these people will likely come back, most of them. What will happen then? There will be, it will be a sacred parliament, it will be a functional parliament, things will improve.
As actually said earlier by PTI chairman, that he will not accept any kind of an hung parliament. He will not be in power, he will not accept a power, he will not accept his position as the Prime Minister of Pakistan if there will be a hung or a combined or a allied government. He says that he will need two-thirds of the majority to work over it. And as he had earlier said that he was incapable and he doesn't had the power in case of, as far as accountability is concerned, as far as the role of NAB is concerned. He hurled an allegation on an institution that the NAB was controlled by another institution. I was helpless and I couldn't do anything. I believe in this thing. If you are helpless and if you know about this thing, if you are sitting over here and you feel that you are helpless, you don't have the power, you don't have the courage, and you are not allowed to work over there, then it's very easy to step down. But the basic thing is, it's not the matter. If you are hurling the allegations, if you are in the power, then everybody, every institution, whether judiciary, whether the election commission, whether the armed forces, they are very good, and you consider themselves one of the best relationships you have. But once if you don't have, I believe in this thing that this kind of a narrative is not good for the country.
But the point is that Rana Saab, the point is that whether he was helpless or not, whether he could not, he said, like Fareed Saab is saying, it was difficult for him to function. He did not have the kind of mandate that he would have liked. He still did not resign. I mean, he was voted out as part of a legitimate vote of no confidence. Well, they argue about the legitimacy of it, but the point is, it was a legal measure that was taken to oust the former Prime Minister, and he didn't choose to resign. So, powerless or not, he still wanted to retain control. There's little doubt about that, right?
Absolutely correct. Keeping in view his previous record, he doesn't distinguish much between good and bad and truth and falsehood. Rather, truth and falsehood are mixed for him. Whatever he says, that is not based on facts, because I am privy to all his action which he has taken against his opponent, and absolutely unfounded, without evidence. For example, there was no role of the regimental forces. There could be a role of regimental forces in case of Mian Nawaz Sharif, or one or two others, but what about dozens of opponents? Like Rana Sanawallah was never required by those people. And, do you remember he used to announce in public meetings that I'll catch hold of you from your moustaches and I'll put you in the prison myself? And how come he did it in Houston that I'll snatch their beddings and snatch their ACs and snatch their refrigerators, the prisoners, the political prisoners inside the jail? He is a man full of revenge and vengeance. I personally think he is not a normal person. The way he behaves, the language he uses, the diction he expresses, that's not a language and a conduct of a normal man. Okay, this is some divine display which has been conveyed to our country and nation, but this is a temporary phenomena. I tell you, this will end very soon. I'm very optimistic about it. But we will still try. We'll still try that he brings his party back to the parliament. There is no other solution at all. He is sadly mistaken that he can trample over things, trample over the institutions, and trample over the police formations, and trample over the political parties, and he'll bring revolution. He is not cut for
Nayab,
revolution.
your comments before we close. Overall, of course, there's an inherent flaw in the argument that he doesn't agree with the parliament, because he is in power in parliament in as far as the Punjab government is concerned, as far as KP is concerned. So it's of course, one can, it's right there, the fact that he agrees with the parliaments in these two provinces, but not unfortunately the National Assembly. He doesn't agree with that. He doesn't want to come to that. He wants to contest in the by-polls, but he doesn't agree with the election. He doesn't agree with there being a fair system in place as far as the Election Commission is concerned. He wants to contest, but he doesn't want to come back in the National Assembly. So those are contradictions that we have been seeing for a while. But what do you expect now in the next coming weeks as far as the political scenario is concerned?
Political scenario? Are you asking me?
Ji, I'm Nayab. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Ji, Nayab.
It's your turn, Nayab.
I think, Mahrukh, definitely, I think as Rana Saab said, we have to be rational over here, because we do not belong to parties that, want to just for in their hunger for power, they want to burn the country to the ground. We're not going to let that happen. One person is not going to let, we're not going to let him do that. So what I see in the coming months is definitely de-escalation. It's the responsibility of all political actors and all institutions involved in this process right now to take the country towards de-escalation, to address the polarization, to take us towards healing. And we cannot be held hostage by one person who essentially does not believe in the democratic process or in the parliament. If you listen to his latest interview, he has basically said that I.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Rana Maqbool Ahmed. Thank you for being with us, Fareed Rez. Thank you for joining us, Nayab Goharjan. Thank you for being with us today. Of course, overall, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we need stability. We need our democratic institutions to function. We need the sanctity of parliament to be upheld. And one hopes that there will be that kind of politics at play and sense will prevail. Let's see in the next couple of weeks what happens. Of course, like Rana Saab said, the government plans to announce a relief package for people in terms of, to combat the inflation, the economic realities, economic crisis at this time. Are pursuant to the flood situation. Let's hope that we can move towards a Pakistan where the democratic norms are upheld and the sanctity of institutions is also something that all parties adhere.